Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Manic Energy. I'm your host, Ryan Swar. Today, I want to pose you with a question. What makes a healthy company? What makes a successful company? Is it the products or the services it offers? Is it customer demand? Is it employee health? Is it engagement? I'm really excited because today I'm joined by a CEO, Derek Newell from CuraLinc. Katie and I will be discussing with him all the things that make an organization successful. I'm Ryan Swar, and this is Manic Energy, a podcast that dives into the fast-moving world of energy, business, and the people powering it all. From bold ideas to real-world innovation, we're talking breakthroughs, market moves, and the community shaping what's next. Whether you're building for the future or just here for the fun, welcome to the chaos. Derek, thanks so much for joining today. It's great having you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Ryan.
I think it's interesting. You and I, we don't know each other very well, but Ann Lang, your partner, works at Lake Superior Consulting. Yep. She's our senior recruiter, but I mean, she's phenomenal. And been bumping into you at times at the holiday parties or, different events we have. And it seems like we have no problem just talking for 40 minutes about whatever subject comes up. So I'm really excited to have you on. Because I love to learn, and it's not. I'll be honest. It's not every day I get to engage with leaders of other organizations and hear their perspective, and be able to learn from their experiences. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, I'm obviously a big fan of Ann as well, but it is a bit of a lonely job sometimes because the number of people that you can confide in your organization might be more limited, and it's good to have a peer group that people you can reach out to. I also appreciate, like you said yesterday, sort of like expanding the network to people who you might not reach out to or engage with otherwise, because I always find I learn a lot from people in different industries that apply to my industry. There's so much that's similar. So I'm excited to be here. Yeah,
well, and you're right. So in the onion concept was one that our producer, Asher, introduced to me, and I loved it. It was like, in the whole theme, the concept makes sense to me. Our show is Manic Energy, and that might be a play on me. It might be a play on the landscape or the energy landscape, really globally and even domestically. But I mean, our goal is to reach as many people that aren't in our industry as possible, because I feel like we want to be more proactive about sharing the message. But I think, really, if all we talk about is, power and natural gas and hydrocarbons, fossil fuels, only people that are interested in that stuff are going to show up. So we try to really broaden it. And, to access that greater market, I think we need to bring in talented folks such as yourselves, or such as yourself, yourselves, I'll say both, that draw on different networks and allow us to be exposed to those and learn from those markets and individuals, but also maybe bring some of our message forward. And we called that, hey, we've got an onion, and the layers are the network we have and can access. But you represent a different onion. Yeah. We're reaching out to somebody with very different layers, very different network and background and experience. And as we were talking yesterday, we didn't really have a script or a plan. And thankfully, it was at the end of the day because it seemed like we both had enough time.
Yeah.
I think our 30-minute call went like an hour and a half. And it's like, it was amazing how aligned the challenges we face are. And it was really intriguing how similar we've been approaching it, at least from what it sounded like.
Yeah, it's amazing. My background is brand and growth and marketing before I became CEO. And when I heard Manic Energy, I'm like, that is such a good name. It is such a good name for a podcast. And we have, at my company, we have coffee with CuraLinc. I'm like, we need to be like caffeinated with CuraLinc, because I got more energy than having coffee with somebody. So similar energy too. But yeah, it's amazing how similar the experiences are from one industry to another. I mean, obviously, like, I think the energy industry can be misconstrued, and because it's like we take it for granted every single day. We're sitting here, we turn on the lights, that we're in Duluth, it's 15 degrees outside and it's warm in here, and we just don't appreciate how pervasive it is in society. And then people get all excited about different kinds of energy. And I mean, not only oil and gas, but nuclear's been the pariah, and nuclear's a great clean source of energy. So but just the problems that you face as an entrepreneur and as a leader of an organization, your organization is hundreds of people. Mine's probably about the same amount, maybe a little bit more. We're about 700 people, but
700 today.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that size of company has special problems too, versus a company that's way more scaled or a company that's way smaller. And so I like to think of the different problems happening at different phases. But I'm excited to be here. It was a great discussion yesterday. I was like, we're going to have plenty of content for this podcast.
Yeah.
Not going to be a problem.
No problem whatsoever. Yeah, that energy conversation to me, it's just really about, and you're right, like it's an invisible thing for most people, and that's okay. But it's like, how do we align on all wanting the same things? I mean, you ask me, and what I want is a secure, affordable, clean future for generations to come, for my children and their children. I want to be a steward of sustainability. But I also want to have, advanced levels of healthcare and education and power, heat and basic necessities even. And so it's like, how do we achieve all those objectives at the same time? We're having the same, and it's not I'm pro energy, you're against it, or clean energy only or renewable. It's about how do we be better? And I think that's really what I'm after. And for me in this conversation today, I'm really excited to talk about, how people can be better employees, how companies can be better, how we can be better leaders. And, to me, like the employees are, that I work with and our team members are like an extension of family. And some of the things CuraLinc does are really intriguing to me because it's very specific, and it's something that we probably don't talk enough about as a society. And I am so poorly educated on the subject, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on. And so what does CuraLinc do? Maybe is a really good way to start.
Yeah, so we're one of the largest employee assistance programs in the United States, and we support about 22 million people in the United States and around the world. We're in 200 countries globally as well.
With 700 people?
Yeah.
Wow,
we use a network of about 90,000 mental health professionals that also work with us. And so
you connect, you're basically bridging or connecting.
Yeah, we have our own coaches, therapists, people that work with people over the phone, but then we connect them to providers in their network as well when we don't have enough capacity to serve their needs. And so the challenge with mental health is, it kind of was very underdiagnosed before COVID. It became, you can talk about it now, and EAPs became way more prevalent, talked about, needed. Everybody was figuring out how to deal with the mental health challenges of working from home and all the changes that were happening in stress during COVID. So we grew from about $10 million in revenue to over 100 in about 5 years.
Wow.
The founder, Sean Fogarty's his name, he really took advantage of this opportunity and built something really special. And so kind of what's different about CuraLinc is we obviously cover the mental health spectrum, as well as we cover, work-life issues. People come, they have childcare issues, elder care issues, they have financial stress, legal needs. We can cover all of those needs. But the real thing that differentiates us is we have master's trained licensed clinical therapists that answer the phone in 9 seconds. So you call CuraLinc and you'll get a professional therapist who can help you in 9 seconds. And that's like, I don't know anywhere else in the United States where you can call somebody and somebody answers in 9 seconds. And somebody asked me, that's expensive to do. We're a premium EAP provider. And when you can answer in 9 seconds, theoretically, you have quote unquote too many people in your call center, right? You have capacity because someone's there to pick up the phone in 9 seconds. But, that you think of it like, if you start thinking about those kind of metrics, you start thinking about what we talked about, the human metrics. It's like we get people who call us who need, I need help scheduling an appointment with a therapist. Okay, great. We'll refer you to a referral specialist. I'm going to hurt myself or somebody else, right? That could be the call we get. In fact, 20% of the people that call us are in some form of crisis, not always that severe. And, many people are like, well, 80% of the people who call you are like, they're not calling you for a crisis. So why don't you put the non-crisis people in front, the subclinical people in front, and then they'll do an assessment and they'll get it to the person in crisis. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Is that like it's like a push button?
Yeah,
press one if you're in crisis.
Yeah, it's like life or death, right? It could be, and
it's better to do it the way you're doing it. That's a real human approach to it.
Yeah, and it's like then the licensed clinical therapist can transfer that person to a referral specialist who can help them get an appointment, a work-life specialist. But we always know, no matter what happens, we've got the best person on the front line. And that's what makes us different, is the speed to answer And then what we do is
you measure that? Sorry. Do you measure that? That's how you know the 9 seconds?
Yeah, we measure
you
it.
actually got a metric around that.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
it's funny
Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, when we tell a patient story at a client or something, we always say, well, this one was answered in 6 seconds and this one was 11 seconds. But it's really hard to do that. And it's really important to do it. And I think
it's 24/7.
It's 24/7, 365. Yeah, all the time. And we're there available for them for all kinds of reasons. But the founder and our COO, his name is David Pawlowski, they kind of flipped the model on its head because everybody was like, put a subclinical person in front of them, in front of the clinician, because the clinician's the most expensive person you can have working for you. Have them do an assessment and then refer up. And these two gentlemen, had this brilliant idea. It's like, if you flip it on its head, you're going to help more people more quickly. And part of it is, we're taking as a society, I think it's great that COVID brought mental health to the fore as a topic to be talked about. But I think what's happening now is we all have life stressors. You have life stressors every single day. We all have them. You're folks that work in the field, they're away from their family. That's life stressor, right? There are people with all kinds of life stressors. They're trying to get somewhere and their car breaks down. There's all kinds of little ones and big ones. And what we're starting to do is creating mental health illness out of life stressors. Instead of resiliency, we're creating dependency. Like everybody, it's like endless therapy. So what we focus on is like, how do we, that person in crisis, get them to the right care at the right time for the right amount of time? Somebody sprained their ankle, they don't need to go to a PT for 6 months, 3 sessions a week, right? It's like somebody's having a mental challenge that isn't a mental illness, right? That can be resolved quickly. I have massive stress. I have a board meeting next Tuesday. Like, I'm stressed out. I don't need to go to therapy. I need somebody to talk to about my board meeting. So I think it's really important to what we do is we try to get the right person to the right care, at the right time for the right amount of time, and not create mental illness where it isn't there, and then to treat aggressively mental illness when it is there. And that's why a professional answering the phone really, really helps determine what level of care this person should be in and quickly get them to the right care. And so we're different.
Into those mental stressors, maybe is the research right now that they can build up over time and basically evolve into a mental illness? Is that a way to look at it?
Yeah. So if you get into, I think of it in 3 buckets. There's kind of life stressors, which become kind of mental health issues. They're not diagnosable illnesses yet, and then they become illnesses. And absolutely, let's say that you're living, the best example is like you hurt your back and you start living with chronic pain, mental stressor, life stressor. You're in chronic pain every day, right? And then that can very quickly lead to mental illness, right? To depression, very quickly. And then it's sort of a negative downward spiral. But getting up ahead of them, that's why we try to say, like, I'm having a tough time with my boss. That's a repeated life stressor every single day. That can lead to problems. But if we give that person the skills, they'll call us like, I'm pissed off at my boss. I'm super stressed out. The clinician that's answering the phone, she knows this is a skill issue. This isn't a mental health issue. This is a skill issue. So they'll go into skills-based coaching, right? Because skills-based coaching is what this person needs. And work with them for 30 minutes or an hour or an hour and a half, whatever it takes. We don't not measure the other side of the call. It's the pickup time. It's not the
long it takes.
person time.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want to pressure that in any way.
And then maybe they need 3 sessions. Maybe they're like, okay, we made some progress. We coached you on that call or the discussion you're going to have with your boss tomorrow. Let's have a couple more sessions. So you come back and tell me how that call went. And then we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about some more skills. And you get them resilient. You get them back on their feet, because a lot of stressors are very situational or very temporary.
How do you measure? Like, for me, I think about, like, we've said over the years, the best way to understand the level of our performance, because customers don't always give you direct feedback, is by them coming back.
Yeah.
From your perspective, I'm curious, how do you measure success on the back end, if not by speed? Of course, it seems like that's the right thing to not measure. But what are you measuring on the back end to understand how well the clinicians are doing, or how well your EAP is functioning? If you don't mind me asking.
That's a great question.
So there are very specific instruments, like diagnostic instruments that we use that are specific to our industry, that you measure the person up front and you measure the person over time. And it's all in mental health. The diagnosis isn't a biometric, like your cholesterol went down. It's perceived, right? And so we measure at different points in time on every single patient or every single member that calls us. We measure to the extent that they'll respond to that survey or that call.
Sure.
We measure their progress and their mental illness. And for us, like, we get over 85% of the people generally in any diagnosis significantly or fully resolved within a relatively short period of time. Sometimes it's 3 sessions, sometimes it's 12, sometimes they need 6 months of therapy. It's just matching them with the right thing. So that's the clinical side of it. And then we measure NPS, right? So NPS is the human side of it, like, would you recommend this to a family or friend question? And our NPS is in the high 80s, which is world-class.
Net promoter score, right?
Net promoter score, which is a measure of, it takes, would you recommend this to a family or friend if you give the 9 or 10 versus any other number? And so we are in the high 80s, which is world-class. I think from a client perspective, we call the people who pay the bills, because employers pay the bills. So LSC would be our client. We call the people who call us on the phone the member. The clients, their NPS, our NPS for our largest 150 clients is 82, which is amazing. So, and we had
the goal like 50, right? You want, or
over 50 is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like over 80 is amazing. And so the other thing is, like, the other way that shows up is our clients don't leave us, right? We have 100 of the 150 largest clients. Last year, one of them left us. And then of the 50 top clients, none of them have left us for multiple years.
So how do you know, and before getting into the business things, I just got a couple more questions on the mental health aspect of it, specifically, since we were kind of on that vein. Like, for me, I'm sure you said you got a board meeting. I feel the same way. Like, I just feel like I'm jumping from one pressure cooker to the next, right? There's always, whether it's an hour from now or tomorrow morning or Monday morning, there's always a gulp. There's always like, oh man, I'm really not looking forward to that. How am I going to ever get ready in time for that? And then there's always that one on the horizon too. And maybe that's a week later. It's like, well, and then it really hits the fan. And then it's like, and then I'll get a break. But then that break never comes. You're just jumping from, it just feels like a myriad of challenge after challenge after challenge. And I like to think that I'm resilient to that and it doesn't bother me. It's like, hey, that's what I'm here for. And I live for that. I like that chaos. And, it's really hard to, and I find myself at times not doing this as well as I need to. And I get feedback, recently got feedback through a 360 process that, hey, listen, there's been a couple of times where, we needed you to, in the moment, douse the fire, not douse it with gasoline. And certainly, sure as hell, don't light the match, and it's like, oh yeah, I didn't really do well. And now I need to be in fire prevention. And not just firefighting, but fire prevention. And it's like, all right, I'll try and be better. But sometimes that's a result of the energy and the pressures you're feeling. And you realize, well, I wasn't really myself because I didn't get enough sleep, or I had too much coming up behind it and I didn't have time. I didn't treat it with care like I should have. Those are learning opportunities. But how do you know when you should talk to somebody? Like, I guess I've never felt like I should or needed to. And this is a therapy or a form of therapy for me in some regards.
Well, I think we all have different avenues to it. This is going to be a great segue to the leadership part, right? Because let's say 15 years ago, I got the same 360 feedback, they called me the Hulk. They're like, you start to Hulk out, and they're like, we can see it in your face.
The vein pops up.
They're like, we know you're going to lose your mind right now. And it's just like, you're just going to cause more problems than you fix. Right. So been there for sure. I think the thing is, most people don't know when they need to reach out. And that's part of the challenge, is like, and they reach out too late. Right. I mean, they actually have either short-term or chronic mental illness at that point. And so, reaching out early is incredibly important. And I think the biggest thing that we do in our employers is try to educate people, especially the manager referral. Like, hey, why don't you go see this person? Of course, we get management referrals. Like, lots of our clients are in transportation, logistics, highly regulated industries, where if someone has a substance use disorder, they end up, they have to be referred to us, right? Then they have to go through our program in order to keep their job. But it's awareness, and it's really hard individually. Where I learned to reach out was I was in that situation you were in, and I wasn't the CEO, and I had a boss who said, you're really good, and you're going to lose your job if you can't figure this out. And so I got a coach, and so I had an executive coach who worked with me for a few years, and I started to plateau. And she's like, you have more potential than this. So I started to plateau, and she's like, we're going to pause our coaching for 6 months. And I was like, what, you're firing me? Am I not good enough? And she's like, no, you need to go to therapy, because these things that are blocking you from reaching the next level of leadership, it's not about skills. You got the skills. You got something going on that you need to go talk to somebody about that's deeper. And she was referred me to this person, but it was that's how I learned, which is weird, right? And I learned through professional development that the power of, kind of sometimes you can't get to the next level or grow or change because there's something that you don't even know that's going on in the back of your head. So, so everybody gets there a different way. I think generally people don't reach out soon enough.
That's really good advice.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So do you feel like working in that, because to me, it's it's hard to even have that conversation.
Yeah.
But you probably live it every day because you're working with professionals who see it and know how to respond to it and advise in that situation. Do you feel like you could have had that conversation confidently and comfortably even 5 years ago? Because that's for some people, that would be very you're bearing all, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I needed help. And that's hard to talk about. But I think the people who have done it and talk about it, hopefully it just motivates others to recognize that it's okay. It's fine.
There's stigma around it, which I think is unfortunate. Because if you think of it as, what happens is those life stressors, they build up. You have that gulp every Monday morning, you're like, oh, this is going to be one of those Mondays, right? And I always think of stress. Every person has this stress graph where stress actually increases productivity, generally, like pressure, but everybody breaks at a different point. And then once you break, your productivity drops to the floor. Yeah. And we're all different. Some of us are super resilient, can handle it, stress, and often situational stress. I can handle a lot of stress in this situation, but not. So I think, but it's about building your resiliency, growing and understanding yourself, understanding your behaviors. It's also about getting back to a place where, of resilience, because most people do not have chronic long-term depression or anxiety. They might think they do, but they actually can be cured of that, right? And there are people who certainly have that, but the vast majority of people, it's episodic and situational, and it's actually the skills that you need to raise your resilience or to know when to say no. There's a lot of pleasers out there who they don't say no to anybody, and they lose their own identity, and then they get so overwhelmed because they feel like there's a lot of nice people up here in Minnesota. Too many of them you got to have some boundaries. It's I can't do that for you. And it's hard, but so I just think of it as self-growth, right?
So as a leader, how do you, and that makes a lot of sense to me. I was reminded of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure kind of concept, but at the same time, it's really just about, recognizing that it's important to take care of yourself as well. You mentioned leadership, and I love the idea of maybe getting into that a little bit with you. Because if it's hard to talk about your personal situation, it's probably even harder to bring up somebody else's situation to them and knowing what you can and can't do. Yeah. And I think there's probably a general concept around this. There's probably in some companies organizational policy around what you can, can't, shouldn't say. Yeah. So if you're a leader of others, or somebody who's maybe in that situation, let's say that in this case, it sounded like your boss at the time called you the Hulk. But if you're a leader, what is the best thing you can do to help people? I feel like for me, I've been in situations before where I've probably misjudged a situation where I saw some performance issues with an individual, and I address the symptom, not the problem. In some cases, I can't even address the problem because it's not a work-related item that's happening. But I approach a situation without empathy, without heart, by saying, listen, this isn't okay. And I'm going to put you on a performance improvement plan. It's expected that you improve. Or I'm going to do something that's like an HR practice, all the while come to find out that they're having something that's really terrible that they're dealing with in their personal life that they had just hadn't disclosed. And it's like, well, now I feel horrible and I need to, how can I help you actually? We need to pull some things off your plate because this isn't actually a performance problem at all. What do you do as a leader to really either address, assess, and all
or
the above?
open, have a safe space so
Have a
that
safe
that
space to, what should you do?
conversation is welcome.
I think you probably realize this, like every single person is so different that you lead, right? You're the leader of like this tribe of people and not one of them is the same.
That's right.
So learning to manage each person is a really important part of leadership is like, because if you take a one size fits all, it almost never works. I think there's a few things like back to like what drove me is like things like what I realized is things as simple as growing up in poverty. Like I grew up, my family was middle class, blue collar. You know, my mom was a welder, my dad was an electrician, and then my mom got in an explosion. My parents got divorced, and my mom was in a welding accident, and we went into extreme poverty. Where you know, part of my 6th grade year, we lived in a van, right, and I could see the middle school from the KOA that we lived at. But that was manifesting in that Hulk. Like that was what was driving some of that Hulk syndrome. Was just like my drive to succeed. I didn't want to fail. Like I wanted to be successful. So, you know, it's kind of getting to know people at a little bit different level. Like I don't need to know their past. I need to know their tendencies. But what I found with lack of performance is it's almost never incompetence, right? It's like there's very few people who are actually really, really incompetent, right? I mean, it's like, and they don't generally make it into our realm of like people that were working in a firm like yours. What happens is we're not aligned, right? I haven't communicated to that person exactly the expectations. And it depends on level. Like I shouldn't have to communicate and get super aligned and tell people what to do that report to me. But you know, the lower level you go, the more direction they don't have the training. They're in the wrong job, right? They don't like the job or they're just not skilled up for it. They haven't had the training for it. We haven't specifically laid out the clear objectives for the job. They don't like it and they're just not telling you.
Or they don't like their leader.
Yeah, they don't like their leader. Or they're having challenges outside, right? And so I try to investigate all of those things with my leaders when I see a challenge. And sometimes it's just fit, right? It's like I find at our level for my next level direct reports, my chiefs, there's sometimes where it's just like we're oil and water. We're not going to work together in the same way, in a way that's going to be productive. I do not want everybody to be like me. It would be chaos. Like, and my team's going to laugh when they hear that. But I need people around me that compliment me. But sometimes there are just things like I can't tolerate, right? I cannot tolerate the things I can't deal with are the things that I think are destructive to the organization. So gossiping, talking behind people's back, lack of transparent communication, right? And I performance manage the hell out of everybody, but it's honest and from the heart, right? I mean, like that's the hard part, you know, is I went through some really tough decisions this week at our company that just were gut-wrenching, but you have to do it, right? You just have to sit down and have those tough conversations. I think coming at it from a place of heart is when you don't come at it from a place of empathy, that's when it's really, really bad. You're just like, you know, you make some assumptions, but man, it's hard. You can be too compassionate to the individual and accept a lower level of performance because you're thinking of all the things about them, like you're too compassionate. And what's happening is you're hurting the team.
Yeah. Where I wrestle the most is when I've really liked somebody, I love their value set.
Yeah.
They're even hardworking, but maybe just not in the right fit or in the right role.
Yeah.
And they're the hardest one is when they're willing to put in the, roll up the sleeves, go to work and just not get it done.
Yeah.
But they're trying and I align with them and I respect them. That's just it's like, how do I have anything but compassion? And it's like, we're going to do this forever. And that's just not the right decision. It's not good for anybody.
Yeah.
So,
sorry. I was just going to say, when I have a low performer on a team, like my job on my team is to get the most out of everybody. Right. And to help them excel. And so when I have a low performer on my team that I cannot get to high performance level, but I'm and I might over empathize with them or focus on them too much, what happens is the rest of the team looks around and goes he's investing in this low performer. And especially if they're toxic, if their behavior is toxic, like it brings the whole team down. And so you have to look at the health of the team and doing right by the team as much as doing right by the individual. And if you lose sight of the team, you won't make the performance decisions you need to make. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
That's a tough balance. I was going to ask you, you had mentioned investigating, when there's an issue, maybe it's with a low performer. What sort of questions are safe to ask when you're trying to figure out maybe what the barrier might be to getting to the next level or performing at the level that you expect them to?
This is kind of like an inflection of the two topics.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, I always start with, priorities, because oftentimes people are underperforming because they have, at least people who work for me, I throw a lot of people. Like I'm demanding, right? We got initiatives, we got metrics to hit. We're like, let's go, so it's like, it can be intense working for me. And so I'm almost always, when somebody starts to underperform, it's about priorities. And the way I manage the stress that you talked about, which is every single day there's something, is like, I'm maniacally myopic. Like I have my top 5 and that's all I'm working on. And it's really frustrating to people who sometimes need me to work to help on number 10. Mm-hmm. So I always start with priorities. Like, are we aligned on priorities? Do we know what's most important? Do you have the same top 5 I have, especially my direct reports? They need to have the same top 5 that I have. We need to have them together. And so often it's that will solve the problem. Just don't worry about that right now. Oh, I thought, I know I said to do that, but like that's not more important than this other thing. So a lot of it's priorities. Then I move into skills, right? Do you have the skills? Do you have the knowledge to do the job? And then, then after that, and that's generally yes. And sometimes it's like, okay, you don't have the skills. Am I going to coach you, or do you need coaching, or is this just too big of a gap, right? I mean, and then, it's kind of like, if they still don't perform, you can just ask the question, is there anything else going on that's affecting your performance? Especially if it was a high performer that moved to a lower performer, like there's almost always something behind the scene, right? You switch, sometimes it's like they got promoted to manager and they're terrible at it, right? Or it's just stressing them out and they hate it. And you say, like, you don't want to demote them, but when you finally say, would you like to go back to being an IC? And they're like, oh my God, I thought you would never ask.
For me, it's almost like 1,000, like batting 1,000 on this, where every single time I've asked that, try to be safe as possible, the answer's been, no, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, okay, tell you what, think about it. I want to check in with you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And just make sure that hasn't changed. And every time they've said to me, no, I'm into this. What are you talking about? This is great. Yeah. And then every single time, this is like 9 times I've done this, they've come back 2 weeks later and they're like, yeah, I hate it. I thought about it. I slept on it. I put a lot of thought into it. And there's a big fear about how others will perceive the change in their role, especially if it's short-lived.
Yeah. And
it's like, well, yeah, listen, we can manage communication.
Yeah.
Manage this.
And I started by trying to be objective as possible. Like, this isn't getting done. This isn't at the skill level I expect. And then kind of if I dig down, it's like, is there anything else that you want to tell me that's going on? Because it's a neutral question.
I love that approach, by the way. I've never thought of it like that or heard it described that way. And I like that it starts with the sphere of what you can control. Like, I can help control as an individual and as a leader your priorities. I can help make sure that those are clearly understood. I can help support your skills and determine whether or not it's a skills problem. And if we check those boxes and we know that those aren't the issues, what are the other underlying themes? And I like the way you put it because it's really just putting it back on them is there anything else that is maybe causing this, and anything I can do as a leader to help you? Yeah. And then it's up to them to either be transparent or, honest and forthcoming into what's really going on, which is, listen, I've been looking for another job, or my mother's been really sick. And I'll be honest, it's affecting me emotionally, and it's hard to stay focused. And then you know how to treat that as a leader. All right, how am I going to respond in this situation?
Yeah, people don't want to admit that they're failing, right? People really don't want, but it's like objectively, you're not performing at the level I expect in this role. And so if we've explored those things and you're still not performing, you just kind of got to turn it back on them to like come to me with what you need because I need and want you to succeed,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's my objective is you are successful. So, and you're not being successful. So help me help you, right? Because,
Yeah, it's funny. Like here, I'm sitting here thinking, so we didn't perform as an organization the way we wanted to last year.
Yeah.
And forget that. We didn't perform near our potential.
Yeah.
Which, I had to sit back and say, what is wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a little while to just realize I needed to look in a mirror. And it's like, okay, I'm the problem. And I can tell you it's not because I don't care. But I do think that there were elements of priority and skill that were causing our business to suffer because of me. And I'm not getting that feedback really directly from somebody. But it's like, hey, listen, if the organization isn't thriving in the regards it needs to, and we were doing great in some areas, not as great in others, that's kind of my fault, right? Like, okay, if there was a board that we had today and we were owned by that, they would look at me and say, what did you do wrong? What are you doing different about it? And I would come up with a plan. Yeah. And so I've done a lot of things, and to me, it was like investment. So I invested in an EA.
Yeah.
And Chelsea, she's been phenomenal to help me discover and make sure that my actions align with what I say my priorities are.
Yeah.
We're in the early phases of that, and I don't think I've got it to the top 5 yet, but we're working on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we've got this iterative plan for the next couple of years, and it's a roadmap of how are we going to make sure that I'm not getting in the way of organizational decisions. I'm actually supporting them, focused on the right priorities. It's just interesting to hear you say that, because it's like, all right, and then there's also what skills do I need to build to be able to support this organization, or eventually ask, am I the right person for this job? Because we've got to succeed. We owe it to our employees. We have too many good people with too much potential to not perform.
Yeah. I love how you put that.
Hard.
I love how you put it. It's like, we didn't achieve our potential, right? I mean, that's what you're trying to achieve you end up with all these targets, right? Some of them, based on prior history, you're going to be able to hit or not. Some of them you're just like, I'm like, you don't have a number, I'm going to make up a number. That's what I tell my team. Like we need a target. And if we don't know what it is, it's okay. But are we achieving our potential? Are we leaving it all in the field? Are we like really trying to do the thing that are we really trying to elevate? So potential is what you're trying to achieve, right? You have all these metrics. You may or may not have achieved them. But it's really, are you maximizing the potential of your organization? The biggest thing, I mean, you probably know this, is like when you have somebody who reports to you, who gives you leverage and is really good at their job, it is such a relief. It's like amazing. You're just like, here you go, Joe, Jane, Julie, here's the problem. You can just walk away and it's solved, right? You just have those people on your team. And so for me, it's really elevating like the team, like that supports me, and then making sure that team elevates the team that supports them. Because at some level, like when we're in organizations of hundreds of people, if you have to dive in and fix a problem, that is a problem, right? You have to and sometimes you do, sometimes 100%. But I'm always trying to get down there and lock arms with my executive who's in charge of it, get the problem rolling, normal, what the solution is, and then hand it off, right? Get out of the way. But it's like when you have gaps in leadership, it's challenged. The same woman who almost fired me, she said, and this is her being completely self-aware, is the fish stinks from the head down. So the challenges that you have in your organization are very often reflections of you as a leader, because you're allowing, enabling, modeling, supporting unconsciously sometimes certain behaviors. Because if you're out of alignment and you don't have priorities and you're chaotic, no one's going to be able to do that with their teams. If you have priorities and are aligned, your team is going to be able to do that. And then you can put processes in place where you just have the expectation that they'll push it down. Like every one of my team members has to show me their plan. Like, what's your plan? And how does it interface? Our leaders are the leaders that are leading laterally. Like a director or manager does a function well. A director and a VP, they lead cross-functional stuff well. They can move the org, right? If you're a manager, I expect you to do your job and your function really well. When you're a director, if you can't cross-functionally work with the other directors to move the needle for the company, cross-functional processes, operational improvement. Almost nothing exists in a function, right? And a VP, you 100% have to be able to do that. So it's all about leverage. And I love the way that you said that, which is to think about the potential, not just the performance, because it gives you a different frame. It's like, it's not like you underperformed. It's like we didn't achieve our potential, right?
Yeah.
Like it's we. It's always we. It's because I tell people, it's like, that number that you have is my number, right? That's my number. Like that's my number, and I'm betting on you, right? But if you fail, I failed. Like,
that's right.
yeah, I had some leaders come to me the other day, and they were they were lamenting how poorly trained some of their people were, and I'm like, so you're telling me you're a bad leader? You're telling me that you're not doing your job? You're really sitting here telling your boss that you're not doing a good job at your job? Because who do those people report to? Oh, they report to you. Like, we don't have some magical training department. The fact that they don't know their job is your fault and your problem. And you don't sit here and tell me that you don't have a solution to it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, we kind of, part of it is like, we need to vent once in a while. It's like, man, I wish people were better trained. But ultimately, it's like our responsibility. If they're not trained, it's our fault, right? And ultimately, that's the loneliness of this. Everything is your fault. Yeah. Everything is your responsibility.
It stops somewhere. That's right.
Yeah.
There's one throat to choke, as they say.
Yeah.
When you think about, like, I really love the values forward approach. I mean, I think you're talking a lot about things that feel competing. One is organizational leadership and management, and what it sounds to me is accountability.
Yeah.
But also empowerment. But then on the other side of that, you've also got, we're going to flip the model and lead with clinicians. We're going to really demonstrate to our members and our customers that we care. Do those things sometimes feel like they're competing, or because now we're getting into culture, right? Like, can you hold both of those things to be true at the same time? Can we get more profitable, more efficient, become better leaders, but also not lose sight of that DNA that it sounds like your CEO or the founder and your COO led with?
Yeah, it's it's a real tension, right? And I always think, I spent time after college. I went into the Peace Corps, and I lived in South Africa for 4 years, 2 years before Nelson Mandela was elected, and 2 years after he was elected. So apartheid is there's no way to describe it other than it's slavery. It's a version of slavery. And so it really helped me realize, like, I met people who were in government organizations, churches. I worked in schools. I worked with, met for-profit folks. And it's like, it does all come down to leadership, right? An organization does great things in the world, performs well, does horrible things in the world because the leaders allow it or are like that, right? So I feel like we have a responsibility as leaders to hold that tension, right, and not let it overwhelm us. And we're owned by a private equity firm, like EBITDA all day long, baby. Like EBITDA. Like, that's the number. That's the thing. And I have great investors who are investing heavily in our growth and our company, but we have to perform, and bodies cost money, which take away from EBITDA. So it's like, the more efficient you can become. And some people become efficient by pushing people harder metrics. Like, you have to reduce the call time. If we took 2 minutes and put people on hold, like, it changed our cost structure a little bit, not worth the cost it would have to our members and our clients. But the thing is you have to rethink your model constantly and re-innovate constantly, and figure out. We talked about this yesterday. The revenue that you get paid is a representation of the value you create for the people who are paying you. It's not a representation of your cost structure, right? You can, it should not be a representation of your cost structure. You can have something that you can charge $2,000 for that costs you $200. You can have something that you can charge $100 for that costs you $200, right? It's like the value in the market. And so really focusing on efficiency through innovation, because our efficiency, like I was talking to Rob a little bit, we're doing this workforce management. Like, how do we innovate on workforce management to make employees happier, to give them more flexibility in their schedule in a way that will reduce turnover, and use software and innovation to do that, because there's all kinds of new artificial intelligence that can help you manage your workforce. So that's an example. Another example is just, making sure that you articulate your value well, and you don't get so hungry for the sale that you forget that, like, you don't chase the dollar when the $1.50 is on the table, right? And you'll never convince somebody if you're better that you're better. You'll be like, because you sell on quality, like, I'm high quality and you're coming in at the same price as everybody else. No, like, you should
Nobody
be,
believes that.
no, it's like 30, 40, 50% more double, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. And I just think you have to create value, and you have to be efficient and manage your cost structure, but that's innovation.
I was on a call this morning, and I actually didn't have the opportunity to engage in this, so I'll be following up. But I heard a conversation between leaders, and one said, are we happy with the margins on these projects and project margin and some work we're doing? And he goes, yeah, I think we're happy with that. And it's like, okay, because of the percentage it was. And I have people ask me a lot. It's a question I get a lot. Well, Ryan, what does good margin look like? What is the number that I should shoot for? I refuse to give a number.
Yeah.
I refuse, because it's about value. Like, well, forget that. Like, how do we know what value we're contributing? Whether that's to the communities we're working, to our employees, to the customer who's paying the bills and buying our services from us. What value are we creating? And then if we can create value for them, how do we create value for ourselves in the process? And what does that look like? And once we've explored that, we'll know the answer on what good looks like. I don't care what the competition's doing.
Right.
What is it we're going to do, and how are we using our unique skills to differentiate? That's probably the harder part, is then understanding, first being comfortable in understanding yourself and your business, which is not unlike what we were talking about in the beginning of this conversation. And then second, understanding how to use that as a strength in the marketplace, which something I'm learning about. We just launched a product, and I've done that before, but more as a service, not as a product. So, like, I love the idea of productizing something, even if it is a bit of a service, because you can talk about it a lot easier and you can understand its value.
Yeah.
Whereas when, right now we sell human knowledge and skills and elbow grease, I guess I'll call it, and responsiveness.
Right.
Really hard to differentiate on those subjects and then put a metric and a dollar to it,
Yeah. Well, I think that's why, I was talking about where we have a negative working capital situation where we get paid for our services ahead of time. And the way we do that, and this might be something relatively what you were talking about, how you get the cash, how you're using this new product to possibly change the way that cash flows through your company, given, the terms of your other agreements. What we do is we get paid ahead of time because we take the risk. Like, so let's say the tank business, like, it's like, you just pay me a certain amount a month and I'll make sure, like, I'll be there. Like, and so before you do the work, you get paid, right? You're getting paid. It's a subscription, and everybody loves subscriptions, but that's our business. We're a subscription business, right?
It sounds phenomenal comparative to what we do.
But if 10,000 people come through the door instead of 1,000, like, I'm upside down because I'm accountable for that. But we understand our business and how our clients are going to market this. And so we can predict how many people are going to come in for what thing really easily.
It sounds like you have strong retention as well, which lends to predictability.
Right. So we have a very predictable business. I think it's always a challenge, like launching new products and understanding the business model. I think, we can all get hungry for a deal and we forget how valuable we are. Like, when you really create value for a client, we all have financial pressures. Like, it's not like we don't ever discount price for someone, but if the competition's at 90 cents and we're at $1.40, we might discount to $1.30, but we're not going to 90 because we're better than that. You want a clinician answering the phone. You want that person. You want that employee who's having such a crisis that they're thinking of picking up a automatic rifle and going into a store and shooting it up, or you want them to talk to us? And do you want to put a phone tree in front of them, or do you want them to get on the phone with somebody who can immediately de-escalate them, right? It's like, what do you want? Like, what are you trying to achieve? Because I think you want this. I think you want what we're selling, and I would think you want the value that we're creating and the risk mitigation that we're creating. And value isn't price. Value is regulatory compliance. You talk about safety all the time, right? all of these things are value, right? It's like, here's our safety record, here's our compliance record, here's our risk mitigation on your side record. It's not cost plus, right? It's like when you get into cost plus, it's like, it's awful.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also hard to break that culture. I mean, we are in a cost plus nightmare in our organization, and everybody thinks, all right, we just got to be, this is what we charge for this. And it's like, we need to be asking better questions to our customers about whether or not we're delivering the value they're looking for and what good looks like from their perspective. What are their metrics of success? Not, hey, can we bid on your jobs and win them?
Yeah.
Which is, it's such an easy trap to fall into.
Yeah. I think so my brother builds custom homes, and his most important metric is reliability. He's like, I will accept a premium from any of my vendors that are consistent and reliable. And then he pays them whatever premium, not a huge one, but enough, right? Mm-hmm. He's always at the front of the line.
Yeah, they prioritize him.
And so he's like, I don't bid out my jobs. My guys get the jobs every time. And if they get too expensive, I go talk to them. I'm like, you're out of line with the market. Yeah. I said I would pay a premium. I'm not going to get, pickpocketed here. But
he understands his market, though. He understands his end user is looking for quality, responsiveness, reliability. So and he needs that in his vendor chain.
Yeah, and his life is hell.
Yeah,
if he doesn't have vendors that deliver for him, because it just flows down. So I think in your business, it's like, bigger companies, the bigger the company, the harder this is, because procurement gets involved and all these people who have, other agendas. But the person you're working for, and I think this happened to you recently in some expansions you had, is like, you did a really good job and they trust you, right? And it's like, I want to give you more business because you're good and you're reliable and I trust you and you did a good job for me. And I want to do more business with you. And so those client relationships, like, we use our clients as our biggest marketing assets, right? And that's the thing that we try to do more than anything, is our clients are our marketing assets.
Well, I have a couple more questions for you, if I can, just brief ones, quick hitters before we wrap up.
Okay.
Coffee with CuraLinc, is that publicly facing and available, or is that more behind the scenes?
No, and it's you mentioned
your podcast, right?
So, it's not mine, it's our company's, and so podcast. It's all mental health topics, so it's completely dedicated. It was started before I was there. I was a guest. I'm a guest on it sometimes, but our different people in our company host it.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah.
And then, if you had one, maybe a parting wisdom to share with our viewers and listeners, like the one thing that you'd want to share, what would that be?
Oh, wow.
Hit a lot of topics today.
I know.
Yeah.
So I feel like you already did it, but I mean, if there's just one lesson you learned or thing that you wanted to leave them with in their daily lives.
Yeah. I mean, I think speaking to leaders out there, it's like, it's a really hard job. People are messy, people are great, and managing each person as a person is a hard thing to do. But as a business leader, it's really hard to separate the empathy with a person. Some of these people are your friends, right? They're like, they work for you a long time, family, but your responsibility is to have empathy for the individual and manage the performance of the collective. And so your job is to manage the performance of the collective at the end of the day, and to do great things in the world through your company. Not to always, that doesn't always mean you have to do great things for an individual. Sometimes you have to do the hard thing. Sometimes the hard thing is the right thing. It's hard for them. It's hard for you. It's hard for the company. So it's like, that's the dynamic, and you have to really embrace and relish that you're building a company to serve, right? A greater good. And sometimes that's challenging on an individual level, but really inspiring. I love what you said, is like, what's the potential of the people? And are you getting that out of them? Because it's so fulfilling for you and for them.
Well, when that happens, it feels like magic. Getting up out of bed's easy, working late's easy. Everything is easier and more fun. And I would argue that when you're doing those things, usually you see it with happier customers, happier employees, better retention and engagement, better improved financial performance in the organization.
Yep.
I think it's sound advice for any leader of any level. I don't think you need to be a CEO to take that advice. It's really everybody's job as a leader, and frankly, even individuals who don't have the title leader, but others may follow and can take that same advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
That's a wrap on this episode of Manic Energy, where the only constant is change. If you're fired up, do us a solid. Follow the show, leave a quick review, or send it to a friend. Got questions, ideas, or a topic you want us to dig into? Drop us a line at the link in the show description. Thanks for riding the current with us. Until next time, stay charged.